Hello, everyone, and welcome to another segment of Motivational Mondays with Donna. I pray that everyone is doing fine and that you're moving forward and letting God handle any type of distractions that may be arising in your life. This week, I'd like to talk to you about what I call a blessing disguised as a burden. Now, a lot of us have different things that come up in our life, and sometimes they're not pleasant. Sometimes it can be very arduous and difficult and trying and just struggle after struggle after struggle. And we start to wonder, is anything good ever going to happen in our lives? Or is everything always just going to be a challenge and a burden and something that's just weighing heavy on us all the time? But believe it or not, a lot of the blessings that God has for you in life, they're actually disguised as burdens. It's a test. All of us have to go through it. Jesus, when he walked the earth, had to go through his testing periods as well. So if he wasn't above it, we are definitely not going to be above it. And these tests and these trials and these burdens that we think are going to just kill us, sink us, drown us, actually is the blessing that God has for you, but he has to make sure that you're ready for it. Make sure that you're equipped for it so that when you step into it, you stay in the blessing and you just keep rising higher and higher instead of sinking down into the sand. So I'm sure all of you at one point or another have heard, if not the whole story, at least part of the story of Joseph in the Bible. Joseph was a tremendous man. You know, he received this dream from God about how he was going to be monumental. He would be a superior that people would be able to look up to. He would be a high-ranking official. But as Joseph's life went around, that did not appear to be the dream that God gave him. His father loved him dearly, and he gave him this wonderful multicolored coat. And his brothers were jealous of him, so much to the fact that they actually wanted to kill him. But instead of doing that, they actually just threw him into a pit. And then they took the coat, as devious as they were, and smeared an animal's blood all over it to make it believe, when they took the coat back to their father, that Joseph was ravaged, killed, and destroyed by an animal. But in actuality, when they threw him in the pit, a caravan came by and they saw him and they picked him up. And they actually brought him to the Pharaoh. Now, God's favor was with Joseph all along. And see, this is where it looks like it was a burden, it was bad, but it was disguised, because this was part of the steps that Joseph had to go through and the tests that he had to encounter to be able to get to that blessing. And so Pharaoh gave him favor, and he was, in his house in charge of everything. And then his wife, Pharaoh's wife, had an eye for Joseph. And she tried to get him to sleep with her. She seduced him every possible way she could try. And he actually ran away from her. And the garment, the clothing that he was wearing, she actually ripped off of him. And then went to her husband after Joseph ran away and said that Joseph was trying to be able to seduce her. He was trying to violate her. And the Pharaoh was livid and threw Joseph immediately into jail. But God's favor and that blessing, again disguised as a burden, was with Joseph. And Joseph was put in charge of everything and everyone where the prison was concerned. And he was there for a while. And there he met a couple of men, and one of them was a cupbearer. And, they found out that the cupbearer was going to be released. And Joseph pleaded with him, please, when you get out, speak to Pharaoh about me. And the cupbearer promised him he would, just like, so many other people promise you that, oh, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do that for you. And then it just goes out of their mind and they don't even remember you. Well, the cupbearer didn't remember Joseph either and didn't say anything when he got released. And Joseph was still there and dealing with these issues of God. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. You said to me that, I was going to have this great life and I was going to be this high level ranking official. But here I am in jail in charge of some people. Where is this taking me? Well, eventually Pharaoh had a very disturbing dream one night. And he got all of his wizards and his interpreters and psychics, and none of them could be able to decipher what this dream was all about. And then is when the cupbearer remembered Joseph and told Pharaoh about Joseph. Pharaoh called for Joseph immediately. And as soon as Joseph arrived, he said to him, this is what my dream is. I need you to interpret and tell me what this is. And Joseph did. And in essence, it was to let him know that, he would have 7 years where everything would be plentiful and 7 years where things would be very, very bad. And upon that interpretation and Joseph being able to tell Pharaoh what it was, immediately Pharaoh released him and put him in command, second behind him. And Joseph finally stepped into his dream. That took 13 years. Not 13 days, not 13 months. 13 years. But he got what God had promised him in the dream. But all along, it was just a burden, a burden, a burden. But that burden was actually leading him to his blessing. So it's very important that you realize that not all the time that you're dealing with burdens and challenges and things of that nature that you feel are just destroying you. You have to look and see that maybe there's something I'm going to learn from this. Maybe there's something more that God has for me, but he has it disguised. Sort of like if you go to a magic show and you see the disguises the magician has. So just remember, blessings are disguised as burdens. But eventually, everything that you hope for, everything that you dream for, everything that God put in your heart, he is going to deliver to you. Now, we always end our segments on gratitude. And there was a gentleman by the name of Henry Ward Beecher. Now, Mr. Beecher was an American congressionalist. He was a clergyman, social reformer, and speaker. And he was actually known for his support of the abolition of slavery, to have it abolished. And he stated, very simply, that gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. What a beautiful quote. What a beautiful sentiment. So keep remembering gratitude all the time. And remember that blessings are disguised as burdens. Have a great week, guys. Talk to you next week.